a thinking thread written by the award-winning author Deryn Pittar, told to you by Esther Luttrell.
A light drizzle had started to fall, and what had been a rather warm day was turning into a chilly evening. It seemed to me like the perfect time to test my cape, as some people call them a cloak. In any case, it's really beautiful. It's a midnight blue, and it's made out of soft wool that, well, it had been... Okay, don't laugh. There's a story here, and I want to tell you. And this is the only way I know to do it. The soft fabric of my cape had been interspersed with filaments impregnated with artificial intelligence. Oh, our research team, they had come up with the idea, but I'd chosen a cape design for the experiment. Well, so far, it had stretched its length to my requirements, and it kept me warm or cool, depending on my needs, and now it appeared to be keeping out the rain. Now, the future of our fashion house depended on this prototype. As heir to the family business and marketing manager, I really had high hopes. I walked as fast as my high heels would allow. And the theater crowd, they had dispersed to parking buildings and taxis, I guess heading out to the suburbs. But, I love the heartbeat and the bustle of downtown. And so I was headed toward my inner city apartment. As the drizzle turned to a steady rain, I realized my foolishness. I was alone in the center of the city at almost midnight, without even an umbrella to protect me against the rain or to defend myself. My cloak, it rustled and it tightened around my neck. It was in response, I felt, to my heart was just racing. I slowed my steps, and I took just several really deep breaths. I was trying to calm my panic. The night just seemed to be closing in around me. And then, from my side vision, I got a glimpse of a figure. It sort of streaked by, and it scared me so much I actually jumped. And then a ragged young man, he skidded to a stop in front of me, and he raised his hand, and he had a knife in it. And it was so pointed, and it looked so frightening, and he said, "Got some money, miss?" I said, "Well, I'm truly sorry, but I don't carry money." "A rich bitch like you must have something." Oh, when he pointed at my tote bag, I just held it out. While he searched, he kept the knife pointed at me. I could see the street light bouncing off the blade in his hand as he twisted deep, just sort of picking and scrambling through my bag. "Nothing," he spat as he threw it aside. And then he swung the knife, and it struck my cloak, but then it slid off. The cloak had become just a hard shell around me. And then he stabbed me, and the knife point dipped, the fabric yielded, but the blade didn't penetrate. Oh my gosh, my heart was pounding. My stupidity had landed me in this danger, and I had no idea what to do next, except to wish that I was home in my apartment. About that time, an indigo mist enveloped me. It was swirling. It was blocking out my attacker. Strobes of light were actually piercing the darkness, and I swirled and I was cartwheeling through thick, dark air. And I shut my eyes just to ease the nausea, and I was swallowing bile that was rising in my throat. And then, seconds later, I was standing in the middle of my living room. And my cloak was rustling as if to shake off the raindrops. I couldn't believe it. I'd actually switched from the city pavement to safety in seconds. My mind was whirling. It just whirled. And then it settled on the only explanation. This artificially intelligent cloak had transported me. Well, while this development amazed me, I doubt it was a benefit you could actually openly market. Imagine the chaos if everybody wearing a similar prototype could do that. It was just 3 years ago that I'd been happily studying for a degree in art history, and I was deep into fashion, into the edits of society, when, by a very cruel twist of fate, my brother Simon, he was heir to the family fashion house, he was killed when his plane crashed into a mountainside. And so the mantle was passed to me. So I switched my studies to finance and marketing, and now I help my parents run their empire. Oh, actually, it isn't as bad as I'd expected. I'd always loved clothes, and as long as I'm involved in the experimentation of design and cloth, I'm happy. But we hope that this latest project will drag the firm out of the post-COVID slump and ignite the public fire for fashion again. However, a cloth that carries you places might be going a step too far, you know. Heaven knows what mischief people might come up with if they had a garment like that, an artificially intelligent cloth. I made a mental note to ask the research team if they could possibly dumb it down a little. The next morning, I wore the cloak to my parents' apartment, and I was eager to share with Mother the cloak's, let's call it, astounding features. "But do you like the feel of the cloth?" Mother asked. "Yes, but it changes all the time, depending on the temperature, and plus, I wore it to a cocktail party the other night, and people were admiring it, and they kept touching it constantly. And, you know, by the end of the evening, it had turned almost iridescent. Light seemed to dance on the top of the fold, you know, and it just swayed as I moved. And I swear, Mom, it purred." Mother raised her eyebrows. "Truly, Mom, it's got a mind of its own. It rustles and it whispers to me, and the collar, it actually creeps up my neck if there's a chill in the air." "But do you like wearing it?" Mom persisted. "Yes, I do very much." Mother chuckled as she held out her hand. "Let me try it on." I slipped it off my shoulders and I put it around hers, and it slid to the floor. Well, I picked it up and I again placed it over Mother's shoulders, and again it slid off. "Oh, here," Mom said. "Let me do it." Well, immediately the cloak became rigid. It was almost like a sheet of canvas. "How odd," Mom said. "Well, it certainly doesn't want me to wear it." I grabbed the stiff garment by a quarter, and immediately it softened, and it draped once more. Well, I hung it over the back of the sofa, and I watched it slip and puddle in a heap beside the cushions. "Oh, strange little thing," Mother said, and stroked the fabric as if it were a kitten. "It's like having a pet, isn't it? Perhaps we could market it as a cape that loves you." "Think so?" "Well, it's waterproof, too," I said. "I tested it in the rain. The fabric would make a great travel blanket, you know, suitable for all conditions and not as bulky as sleeping bags." "Oh, no, Jessie. Blankets and rugs are boring. Unless you're offering our clients a magic carpet, I can't see them being interested." "Funny you should say that, Mom. Just like a magic carpet, it transported me last night." Now those eyebrows, they rose again, and her head tilted while she waited for me to explain. Before I even finished, her eyes were sparkling, and she grinned and she clasped her hands together under her chin as if she was just enchanted with my tale. Ah, if only your brother had had a cape like this when he crashed. He might have been able to reach safety before he froze to death. Her eyes filled, and then I wrapped my arms around her, and our grief, it just seemed to suck all the air out of the room. Well, enough melancholy, Mom said, pulling herself together. Let's talk about your discovery. And I think your fear triggered the cloak to transport you to safety. Perhaps we could market an executive model that does that. Well, anyway, for now, though, I think I should ask our research team to modify the artificial intelligence. I wondered again, as I had through the night, how the vagrant felt when I disappeared, and if he told his story to anyone. But who would believe him? Still, the idea of this cloak being stolen by a criminal wasn't appealing. What if it became a target for thieves, like a prized jewel? There would be insurance coverage to consider, and the safety of the owner to be concerned about. I don't know. Perhaps we wouldn't be able to save the business with this after all. Oh, while I was thinking about all of that, Mom had gathered her purse from a side table and started toward the door. "Come on, sweetheart," she said. "We've got a meeting to attend and a marketing plan to work out for this new fabric. I think I might have a coat made up for myself. How much fabric did they weave for the experiment?" I followed her out into the hall, and we stood waiting by the elevator, trying to decide if we could come up with a catchy sales gimmick. "Cloaks aren't all that fashionable," Mom said as we stepped into the elevator. "Well, we'll just make them fashionable," I replied. "A cloak that cares," Mom said, thinking. As we reached the lobby, she said, "Friendly fabric. Or what about livable and lovable?" Standing outside our building, waiting for our car to arrive, I said, "We need to hint at the artificial intelligence content without actually saying so." And Mom replied with a hint of worry in her voice, "Well, I hope we haven't opened Pandora's box with this discovery." About then, the chauffeur arrived with our car, and we slipped into the back seat. Raising the glass between us so our driver couldn't overhear our conversation, Mom said thoughtfully, "If this fabric can do what you say it can do, and more, I think it could save our business. We'll have a jump on the market before others can research and copy it. We can't stop our competitors buying our cloth and pulling it apart to analyze it, but even a 3-year head start, that would be wonderful." The memory of being transported from the street to my apartment last night skittered across my mind again. The cloak transported me. It protected me. But how? Was it a scent? They say that fear has a scent of its own. Was it the tone of my voice? Or could it actually read my mind? As the words floated together, my brain caught the combination of what we'd been chasing. Mom, we should advertise our garment as having, quote, "a thinking thread that personalize your garments to fit your desires," end quote. "Well, never mind desire, darling," she said. "That's a bit over the top. Just a thinking thread will be enough." "You are such a clever girl." Well, we both knew I wasn't the clever one. The ability to transport will be very useful and should be retained purely for our family use, I was thinking. Nobody else's. The first bolt of fabric will need to be under lock and key. And then we'll have our researchers continue to tweak the thread mutations until the so-called jumping gene is eliminated. Oh, it would still be intelligent, still be able to protect and change from warm to cool in a nanosecond, still be able to comfort you and perhaps even anticipate your mood. But I would have the only cloak that could take me wherever I wanted to go, whenever I wanted to go. This thinking thread, it could be smarter than all of us. A shiver of excitement, or was it fear, tinkled along my spine. I contemplated the future, even as my inner voice cautioned. Well, as I thought about all of this, the cloak, hugging my shoulders, began to move. It actually hugged me. It inched up my neck in a soft caress, as if to soothe my worries. And it rustled and murmured almost words. Murmuring. Was it true, or was it just my imagination? Could this cloak actually form thoughts? Independent thoughts, not just reactions to the person wearing it. Another shiver coursed through me. This one was definitely more fear than excitement. Had we created a thinking cape? Or had it created itself, using us to find its way into reality? Artificial intelligence. How far could it go? The cloak nestled against me, purring.
You've just heard A Thinking Thread, written by award-winning author Deryn Pittar, told to you by Esther Luttrell.
And a very special thank you to Fesliyan Studios, who always comes up with wonderful music. Thank you for the music. Thank you for the sound effects. Fesliyan Studios.